So hi guys, and welcome to another video from Crypto Womble. So today we are looking at the latest release of WolfPackBot. We're at version 0.9.50. Now it's been a little while since the last release and there's a lot to go through. I've covered a few bits and bobs on a previous video, so I thought what I do today is quickly run through all the screens, show the differences, see if there's any use cases I can show you on the exchange, how you could use these indicators, and then we'll go from there. If you've got any questions, obviously post them in the comments or in one of our media groups, whether that's Discord or on Facebook. The first thing to note about the update, it is 30.3 megabytes in size and it's available both on paper and on the live bots. From a visual point of view, there are some changes, there's some new screens, and what we'll do at the moment is just go through them all. So this is the bot. Forget that version number, as I haven't updated it yet to the latest 5, but all the features are in this version. So let's start. On the dashboard there is really nothing much different that you're not used to, absolutely nothing there. So moving on to config, where there are a few differences. The first thing we're going to look at, and I did touch on this, was the Vulcan Scalpy. What a great name for a strategy. Is the non-capitalization, the non-compounding feature where you can protect your original capital. And there's a feature here where you can say all accept and then put in a value and set the reserve. So you can say all accept 3,000 and set the reserve, which would mean that the bot would only ever trade with 3,000 Bitcoin. 3,000 Bitcoin, oh my good God, can you imagine? Maybe 1 Bitcoin is a better, more realistic target there, but on dollars, for example, you could say only trade between $3,000 and keep my profits and don't trade with those profits. Really useful, especially if you just want to take those profits every day and maybe put them somewhere else into some kind of a revenue stream. I mean, Binance does a lot of different revenue streams at the moment, like lending and staking. So, you know, there's options there rather than trading. The other one, a big one, the one that we were all waiting for, was triggers. So let's have a quick look at triggers. This is still a work in progress. There's a lot of work going into this and the devs have done a fantastic job. So there are a number of triggers. There's a scheduler trigger and there's a pump or dump trigger. So on the scheduler, what we can do is we can put a command in to run at a certain time on a certain day. Always tick the UTC option. I've had some really mixed results if you don't tick that. So I can say, well, I want a trigger, I want to switch it on, and I want it to run every day at midnight. And that's it. It's done. But what can you do? So then you add an action for the scheduler. You can sell positions, so you can dump all the positions in the bot. Put that on. You can say, don't sell these coins because I want to keep them. And then you can optionally say, only sell the coins that are actually at a loss right now. You can also, let's change that. Oops, don't want to do that. Hang on, let's go back. Let's get rid of that first. Yes, go away. You can turn off buy and sells if you wanted to. Don't know why you want to do that, but the option is there. And then the other one you could add is change strategy. So you could say on Monday I want to trade using this strategy. There's all my little strategies there, which I could choose from. And you could say, well, you know, just at midnight swap the strategy to this, or at 5 o'clock in the morning swap the strategy for that. Again, a use case for that. Well, you might find something, but if you do, let me know how you would use that. I've got to remember to delete all these triggers. So yes, that's it. So you can dump your positions, you can switch buying on or off, or you can change strategy at any given time. So let's remove these, because otherwise it's going to get very confusing very quickly. The one that got me quite excited was the pump or dump trigger. So you can switch that on. You can select your signal, so you could put your symbol. Let's try one that actually is a symbol. And then, for example, you could say if the price pumps by this much between these times. So you could say in the morning, just after a new candle, if the price is pumping, change the strategy to this. And likewise, if the price is dumping for whatever reason, you can change the strategy to whatever you want to choose it to. So really useful for me, actually, because in the Vulcan way, it has a certain way of operation. And in a price pump, Vulcan sometimes won't be able to respond to that because of the way it works. So I could say, if the price jumps up by 5%, say, change the Vulcan strategy to one that will take advantage of that price pump. And then once it dumps back down, go back to the original strategy. So let's say dumps by 10%, add an action to that, pump or dump. We can sell positions, we can turn off buying, turn off selling, or we could change the strategy. And again, you could put your strategy name in here and just call it something, whatever you wanted. And you can combine these, so you can have a pump or dump, change strategy, turn off buying, and dump all my positions if you so wanted. Really good features. Of the rest of the screen, it's pretty much what it was before. There's a lot more bases nowadays that Binance have opted to support, so that list has grown quite a lot. And the only other thing to mention is when you do set the all accept, you should see that just as a downgrade in your capital rather than it being anywhere else. And before I forget, let me delete that trigger, because otherwise this might just do something really weird that I don't want it to do. Okay, so apart from that, I think that's the config screen. Strategies we'll come back to because there's a lot to talk about in there. Open orders is the same. Positions, this is a test rig, just tracking prices of Bitcoin and Ethereum over the last couple of days. I just wanted to see what was going on, but it's pretty much the same. The only good thing about this, which I do like, is the show details. So this gives you all the details about the position, including down here why it bought and why it sold. So you can have a look at what indicators were in play at the time it bought and the time it sold. Okay, 24-hour sales is the same as before. Now we go into two new screens, so coin statistics and indicator signals. Now, I don't have any coin statistics because I haven't sold anything, but it's pretty much like the back testing coin stats, like this screen here, which will show you the coin, how many you've had, average profit, whether it was strategy, take profit, or trailing stop loss. Very, very interesting to see if the coins you're actually trading with are profitable or not. And you can remove those coins if you felt that they're going to stay unprofitable, or you could try new coins and see how that would go. Really, really useful screen. Indicator signals is another interesting screen. So here, what we're doing is we're looking at why things bought. So, or why things didn't. So all your different indicators for buy would be listed here. I've got a very simple strategy here, just messing around really, but you could have MFI, RSI, SMA, whatever you wanted, and it would show you which ones were activated. And you can do that for buy signals, sell signals, which would be nothing because I haven't done anything, short close and shorts. So that's a really good screen for information about how the bot is performing with the coin selection and the indicators that you have chosen for your strategy. Just play with it. Don't forget to hit refresh though every time you go into these screens, because as it says, the indicator signal does not automatically update due to performance reasons. Manual trading, we've had a few fixes on here. So there was a couple of issues with buying and selling and amounts. That's all been fixed. I won't go through how to use that, but it's pretty simple. You select your base, so you can select US dollars, maybe. Thank you. Choose a coin. Oh, I don't know, random. I've got no open positions on the bot there. That's great. You can then merge your buy with previous positions, which is sometimes really useful, and you can do the buys and the sells there. Now, coming up, we have been talking to the devs about the ability to do a sort of limit order, because all these orders on the manual are market. But sometimes you just don't want to buy right now, you want to wait till it hits a certain price, and we're currently looking at that, and hopefully that functionality will be out very shortly. Sync positions is the same. It doesn't work here for me because I'm not on a live bot, but you can see what the exchange is. I don't know what happened if I press that actually. It'll be sync nothing, so that should be what I would expect. Backtesting is backtesting, so maybe we also do a whole series on backtesting. I use it, but it only uses full candles, and that's the important thing. So if your strategy is a partial strategy, partial candle strategy, backtesting is interesting. But we do have an option here of parallel strategy execution, so you can utilize the CPU in a much more efficient way if you're using more than one coin. But generally it's a good way to test out a strategy, but as long as you're using full candles. Messages, that getting those because I just hit refresh and this is a test bot. But generally, if you see anything in there, you could probably take some action. And then the about screen is, this is the previous version, of course, so there's not a lot in here. But read the release notes, there are lots and lots of fixes going on. So we'll come back to strats. The first thing you'll notice when you come to strats is these are all minimized. And if you start a new strategy or you open the bot from scratch, everything is minimized. This was to try and make the screen a little bit cleaner and a little bit easier to use. What we've asked the devs to do is to try and make some kind of indication on the headers here of which ones are active and which ones are not, because otherwise you have to open up all of those and check each one, and from a usability perspective that's quite time consuming. So what did we fix? Right, or what did we add? Okay, so the first thing, as I mentioned in the previous video, was the after sell cooldown. After sell cooldown allows the bot to go into like a quiescent mode on that coin pair, and that will allow you basically to say, well, yeah, if I've sold something on this coin, wait. Why would you want to do that? Well, if the price is rising and you've sold for a profit, you don't really want the bot necessarily to buy another position of that coin. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't, because the price might go down and you'll end up with a bag. And so you made profit and then you've got a bag which kind of wipes them out. So there's an option here to say, after I've sold this base pair, just don't worry about that for a couple of seconds, couple of minutes, couple of hours, whatever you want. Again, the value is in seconds and it's between 0 and 86,400, which of course is about 1 day. I do like that. That's really good. And one of the, this isn't new, but it is a really useful one, which is close after minutes. You can actually get the bot to auto close a position after a certain amount of time. Now, why would you use that? Well, if you're doing your coin statistics and you work out your strategy holds a coin on average for, say, 30 minutes before it sells it for profit. After 30 minutes, it develops a bag and you don't really want to keep it. Your TA is aged at that point and you kind of missed maybe the opportunity to sell the coin. So if your average hold time is 30 minutes, you could put in there, you could say, well, close this coin after an hour because it's unlikely to make a profit. Quite a nice way to keep your positions down and to reopen funds to try and get a new coin and a new position. Closing position is the same and closing short position is the same. Other than that, this is pretty much what you should be used to. Nothing has changed in any of these. Take profits and trailing stop losses. So, looking at new indicators. Okay, so the first two I want to look at is B band W, or Bollinger Band width, and the Bollinger Band percentage B. So you can, there's quite a lot of settings there. Set up your periods and custom levels as normal. Your period and your deviations, and a custom level which is going to be using to calculate the percentage. You can then say the buy signal is increased, decreased, cross under, crossed over, below or upper. And so what does that, how do you use that? Well, I'll show you in a second. In conjunction with that is the Bollinger Band width. Scroll down a little bit. And this one allows you to look at the actual width of the Bollinger Band between the upper and the lower. So using those together, let's pop into the exchange a second because I've got this set up on here. You could say, here's my Bollinger Band width and here's my BB. So at some point when you're trading, and I need a good example of this, and I never get one when I want one. Maybe there. Actually, let's go back here. Not the best example. So we scroll in here a little bit. So this is it's a one-day candle, so it's wider than I would imagine. But when the bands narrow, the price movement is restrictive between the upper and the lower. And you don't really necessarily want to trade in there if that band is too narrow. Because if you buy in that band, A, you won't make your profit, most likely. And you've got really possibly no idea what's going to happen at the end of that when it makes a move up or down. So maybe you don't want to buy at all. And you can do that with the width. So you can say, well, look, here comes this narrowing. You can see the width value here is 0.1034. So you could say in the bot, well, only buy if the width of the Bollinger Band, so this distance between here and here, or here and here, is higher than a certain value, say 0.2. And that should allow you to have more movement within the Bollinger Band and hopefully hit your profits. The width is pretty, it's an interesting one because what it's trying to say is how close, if you like, and this is a very simplistic explanation, but how close the price is to either the upper or the lower. So you can work out that actually it's quite a wide Bollinger Band because you know what the BBW value is. In this case it was 0.3316 and the price is pretty close to the lower. Is that a basis for a strategy? Well, possibly. You could say if the BB band is greater than 2.5 and the BB% B is really low, so close to 0, and the candle is green, then buy. Because what you'd be trying to do is to buy at the bottom of the Bollinger Band on a green candle and hoping then of course the price will go up. You would need a momentum indicator in there just to make sure that what you're buying isn't a green candle on the way down, and you could use anything you want. I've got WMA I think on the screen here, but you could use any kind of momentum indicator. MOM is one of the classic ones to work out if the price is actually going to go up and if there is upward momentum in the market, or any kind of measure you wanted. Really, it's entirely up to you. There's Stoch, there's MACD, there's all sorts of stuff. So that's a quick overview of how you could potentially use those. So let's minimize these back down because we don't really want them on screen. Candle change, I'll just go through it. It's not really in the release notes. I'm not sure if it was in the previous version. I don't think it was. What this allows us to do is to check if the candle itself has risen or fallen. So we can say, well, if the candle's got up by 1%, then maybe that's an indication that the price is going up. And then we can capitalize on that and say, well, that's a buy signal. So buy when the candle is increasing. Used normally, or I would use it in conjunction with the candle color, where you can say, what's the candle color? Is it green? Is it red? There's another one here, which is just changed to green, or just changed to red, or is flat. So you could therefore say, in a strategy, you could say, is the candle green? And is the candle starting to grow? So I use the price increasing. Likewise, you could go, if the candle's red and it's decreasing, maybe I want to sell. So those indicators, all four of them together, are actually quite powerful in their own right. And I would really hope that people would start experimenting with that. The other change is the DMI XMA. It's a duplication of the DMMA. So I don't know if you've ever used DMMA, but it's a very powerful way of extending your technical analysis. So let's take SMA. This is up there on the screen. It's just a memory thing. So say you had a strategy when you went, oh, I only want to buy when SMA 5 is greater than SMA 10. Well, down at the bottom of the indicators down here, there's an SMA indicator, and you could go, all right, so I put 5, I put 10, and when short crosses long, I want to buy, and when short goes below long, I want to sell. But then you might want to say, well, actually, I only want to do that if the SMA is going up. Or maybe you want another one and say, well, I only want to do an SMA 20 is above or below my SMA 10. So you start to get into like ribbons and different ways of using MA. And you can actually put these in. So there's 4 different indicators, so SMA, EMA, WMA, and HMA. So you can just start to build and extend using more than just the original SMA indicator, which is in the bot. So you could use 3 different SMA indicators if you wanted, for example. Due to popular demand, and in the testing, maybe lots and lots of testing, we discovered that actually wouldn't it be great to have another one of those? And this is really the DMI XMA is really just a clone, as I said, of the DMMA, and it allows you to extend that even more. So you can now use many variants of the same or different indicators and mix and match them all together to give you a more robust strategy. It's a good feature, actually. I quite like them. So, for example, I might use SMA for the simple moving average, which of course is MA on Binance, and I might put some, I don't know, say SMA 10 is moving up. I could then use DMMA to say, oh, and by the way, SMA 5 has to be above 10, and then I could use the DMX MA, yeah, however you want to pronounce it, to say, oh, and SMA 10 has to be above SMA 20. So you can start building up that kind of picture of how you're going to be using the indicator. Fibonacci was old, HMA is old. iCloud is the itchy cloud, as they call it. Very, very powerful trading tool. It's some people say that's all you ever need is the itchy cloud. If you do use it, there are some actual values that are recommended for crypto trading as opposed to other types of trading. I've not had any remarkable results using that in the testing I've done, but it's there and you can use it. Of the other ones, I think that's about it. So yeah, okay. So that's the new indicators. That's the changes to the cooldowns, buying after loss and after sell. And that is about it for that main screen. We've looked at indicator settings, we looked at coin statistics, and I think in general that is the end of the updates. The one thing I will say, and it's really important, is there's a lot of bug fixes being done, far too many to put in the release notes, and that's really a result of 2 teams, really. The testing team, who have been working really, really hard, testing new strategies, doing some really outlandish stuff to see if we could break the bottom, and yes, we did. Feeding that back to the devs, and the devs, bless them, have been really reactive in fixing those bugs for us. In a software project as complicated as WolfPackBot, there are always little bugs that we need to fix. So if you do come across anything that's a little bit weird, please let us know, and we will attempt to get them fixed in the next release. The next release will not be 6 months or whatever it was since the last one. We need to get onto a more kind of regular release pattern, and I'm sure that we will see far more releases in the next couple of months than we've seen in the last year or so. That is, I believe, about it. So I'm going to leave you there. If you've got any questions about this particular video, please let me know, and I will attempt to get back to you on them, maybe even with an answer, but I can always ask people if I don't know. If I've earned your subscription today, that'd be fantastic, but please like the video, and if you can, share the video and help me grow the channel. With that said, onwards and upwards, as I say, and I will see you all soon. Take care.